Hey, good morning to you. It is Sunday, May 31st. I'm Ali Velshi, and I hope you had a better Saturday night than this one. But there is a clash going on in front of us between protesters. By the way, there were very, very few protesters. We pulled out of this scene probably 15 minutes ago, and I would say that there were a few dozen people left, and probably a few dozen police. And then all of a sudden, we saw dozens and dozens of police. The police presence here is remarkable. That's where I was last night, Newark, New Jersey, outside a windowless warehouse called Delaney Hall, a 1,000-bed immigration detention facility owned and operated by the for-profit prison company GEO Group, tucked among the shipping containers and industrial buildings near Newark Airport. There are no homes here, there are no restaurants, just warehouses, and one of those warehouses now holds human beings. Yesterday afternoon, after watching the tension between anti-ICE protesters and authorities escalate all week, and watching the line of who counts as authority shift from federal ICE agents to New Jersey State Police and then to Newark and Belleville cops, my team and I decided that I should go and see it for myself and for you. Because at this point, that's about the only way anyone on the outside is going to find out what's happening inside Delaney. The allegations are that people are being mistreated. They're not eating. Some in cases are on hunger strikes. They're in need of medical condition. There are elderly people and young people in there. Again, very hard to get information. So here's how we got to where we are. On May 9th of last year, Newark's Mayor Ras Baraka showed up at Delaney Hall with 3 members of New Jersey's federal congressional delegation, Representatives LaMonica McIver, Bonnie Watson-Coleman, and Rob Menendez, for a congressional oversight visit. Now, this is really, really important. Federal law gives members of Congress the right to inspect any federal immigration detention facility at any time, for any reason, without any notice. About 20 Homeland Security agents swarmed Baraka and arrested him for trespassing, the mayor of Newark, on the public side of the gate, after he had already left the facility. Now, those charges were eventually dropped, but then federal prosecutors turned around and indicted Congresswoman McIver. She's in the red blazer in the video on 3 counts. They charged her with 3 counts of assaulting and impeding federal officers. For what it's worth, we all watched the whole thing happen live on TV. You're seeing the replay of it here. McIver pleaded not guilty. Her motion to dismiss the case on the grounds of legislative immunity, the constitutional protection that lets members of Congress do oversight without fear of prosecution, were denied. Her appeal is right now before the Third Circuit Court of Appeals, with briefs from a bipartisan group of former members of Congress and from the ACLU urging the court to throw the indictment out. If, however, LaMonica McIver is tried fairly and found guilty and convicted on all 3 counts, this member of Congress faces up to 17 years in federal prison for doing the job the Constitution assigns her. Now, why is everybody trying so hard to get inside Delaney Hall? The allegations are twofold. One, that the conditions inside are substandard: the cells, the toilets, the medical care, the food. On May 22nd, roughly 300 detainees launched a hunger and labor strike, citing what they called inhumane conditions, including maggots in their food. New Jersey Senator Andy Kim, who eventually did get inside, said he spoke with a pregnant woman who's not receiving any medical attention. The water, he says, having tasted it himself, is not drinkable. ICE and GEO Group deny all of this, by the way. They say the detainees receive 3 meals a day, clean water, bedding, soap, and comprehensive medical care. So who's telling the truth? This brings us to the second set of allegations, and this one is less about the inhumanity inside the building and more about a serious threat to our democracy. As I've said many times, members of Congress have a statutory right, going back to a 2019 appropriations rider, to walk into any ICE facility without notice or reason or advanced timing. That right was reaffirmed by a federal judge this past February when ICE's attempt to require 7 days' notice was struck down. Yet across the country, those members of Congress are either being kept out, slow-walked, or stonewalled when they attempt to enter an ICE detention facility.
Last Saturday night, Senator Kim and Congressman Menendez finally got inside Delaney Hall and spoke with more than 100 detainees. That's where most of what we now know about the conditions inside the facility actually comes from. The next day, last Sunday, 1 week ago, Menendez tried to go back in to check on the hunger strikers. He was kept out. On Monday, Memorial Day, Governor Mikey Sherrill, New Jersey's newly elected governor as of last November, and a delegation of New Jersey Democrats showed up together. Sherrill, the governor of the state, was denied entry. Governors, unlike members of Congress, do not have a legal right of access to federal detention centers. Congressman Menendez, who does, was told he could come in at 8 a.m. Monday, and then ICE simply refused. Senator Kim was eventually let in, and when he came out, he got caught in a cloud of pepper spray. This is video from after Kim was caught in the pepper spray. So this is all last week. By yesterday morning, New Jersey state health inspectors were only allowed to inspect, in the governor's words, a limited part of the building. By Friday afternoon, Governor Sherrill, in what appears to have been a genuine attempt to prevent a violent confrontation between protesters and federal agents, ordered the New Jersey State Police to take over public safety operations outside of Delaney Hall from ICE. She set up what she called a peaceful protected protest zone, orange barricades, designated areas, to deny the Trump administration the pretext to expand federal operations in her state. That's what she said. But that's not how the protesters saw it. They saw the state police as a buffer physically placed between the demonstrators and ICE, isolating the federal agents, shielding them from the public's gaze. And by Friday night, after some protesters threw fireworks and gas canisters at the line of agents, the state police themselves moved in with tear gas, with batons, with shields, with mounted officers on horseback. The kind of escalation any American who watched the streets of Minneapolis last year will find familiar. 6 people were arrested. 5 of them, the governor says, were from out of state. And so that's the situation I walked into last night. And before I show you this video, here's what I want you to understand. At this hour, neither the press nor your elected representatives can get the real story of what is happening inside or outside Delaney Hall. Despite my team's efforts, despite the fact that we are credentialed press, despite the First Amendment, I cannot tell you with certainty exactly what happened 13 hours ago, a few hundred yards from where I was standing. Governor Mikey Sherrill this morning said that masked individuals began, quote, aggressive and dangerous actions against Newark and New Jersey State Police, including throwing projectiles, utilizing the barriers as weapons, and lighting tires on fire in the street. Again, I could not see what was going on because I was asked to stay several hundred yards away. But now I will show you what I was able to see.
They're moving in to make arrests. We've seen bottles being thrown toward the police. But before that, we've seen, I've counted at least 5 flashbangs. There is a very large grouping of police now moving in with batons and with shields. They are moving to provide now a rear support guard for the police that are there. We are being asked by police to move back, so I'm going to be doing that. Can we stay here?
Just be advised, everything is recorded. I'm at BWC.
Understood.
We got to step back. That's it.
How far do you need us to step back?
They want everybody back. Everybody.
God, we are pressed, though. Can we stay where we are?
I know. They want everybody to step back. So
okay. Any sense of how far we need to step back?
we have to push out all the way back.
All right. Are you able to tell us what is happening there? Because we're trying to.
I just got called in for a backup, sir. That's it.
Okay. Is this okay if we stay here?
You can back all the way up past that.
All right. Unfortunately, we won't be able to cover it if we go that far back. Do you know why we're being removed?
Keep going. Keep going.
Can you tell us what's going on behind you? Okay. How far do we need to go back?
Y'all going all the way down there. All the way down.
All right. So that impedes our ability to talk about what's going on. If Alex were to turn around again, and I don't want you to injure yourself, Alex, all of these police are walking us back. Just to be clear, there is no one else here. There's no one behind us.
It's just the two of
my
you.
producer, it's our security, and our camera. Yeah. That's correct. That's it. All of these police are walking us back. Just to be clear, as you've seen, we're not we're not resisting walking back. I am trying to ask why we're being removed and how far we have to go. This is a road that is several miles long, so I have no idea how far back we're going to go. We are effectively out of the line of sight of what's going on, which is part of the whole problem with this story, Catherine, that we can't bear witness to it. Elected representatives can't bear witness to it.
I'm joined now by the New Jersey Congresswoman Bonnie Watson Coleman. She represents the state's 12th congressional district. Congresswoman, thank you for joining us this morning. You've been struggling with this for a long time. I'm struggling to understand how it is American citizens, American voters are going to hold their government to account when none of us, neither you nor me, are being permitted constitutional rights to bear witness to what is happening inside Delaney Hall and other federal detention centers.
So, Allie, let me just tell you, I'm glad you made it back to work today. I watched the whole thing last night. It was very offensive to me to see the police walk you back and not tell you where you were going or why you had to go. I think the people in this country have a right to see what is happening at Delaney Hall, which has been a problem from the very start, that it has been inadequate in its services. It has been difficult to deal with members of Congress who have a right to oversight. And it has been the source of a lot of complaints into our office regarding the inhumane treatment of the detainees by their families reporting it. So this is very serious. And what we saw last night and what we've been seeing is un-American. It's undemocratic. If the press can't show the people in this country what is actually happening, then we're going to lose our democracy and our sense of what's going on and what we should be holding accountable.
And
this is
Yeah, go ahead.
If I might. My colleagues and I have decided that we're going to make sustainable visits to Delaney Hall, that we're going to go into the facility, we're going to speak to the detainees, we're going to follow up on those that we've spoken to before to see what's happening with them. We're going to check out the kitchens, the bathrooms, the medical facilities, and we're going to document everything that we see. Because we're the only eyes and ears and voice that can actually get inside and see what's happening. And what is happening is brutal, it is inhumane, it is undemocratic, it is disrespectful, and it is dangerous. And, you know, I talked to the governor a number of times. It was her interest and her thought that sending the police there would be protection for the protesters. It didn't quite work out that way.
Yeah.
I was sorry to see them in their shields. I understand the protesters, therefore not trusting our law enforcement, but I know that that was her initial reaction and desire, was to protect our protesters from ICE. Now, I see DHS has tried to manipulate that and say that she was there to help them. That is not true, but it did devolve, and that's sad. And so we need to make sure that we as members of Congress at least go in there on a regular basis, sometimes announced, sometimes unannounced, so that we can report out what is happening at a facility that needs to be closed.
Yeah.
That needs to be closed. And ICE needs to be dissolved. You know, not to use a pun, but you know what happens when you dissolve ICE? It becomes water.
Yeah. So there are a few things you've touched on here that are really critical. It doesn't matter where you stand on immigration or immigrants or undocumented people. None of this matters. We're talking about the conditions inside this. But by the way, we've been talking to members of Congress from across the country. They all match, right? These places, Delaney Hall, it's an impressive name for what is a warehouse. It doesn't look like a warehouse that was transported and changed into a hotel, it looks exactly like what it is. It's a warehouse. It does not look like a place that should be housing humans.
Exactly. And when you go inside, it doesn't have any smell of food being cooked. When we first went there, it wasn't the cleanest facility. They made the excuse that they were just sort of gearing up to give them some time. But This facility has devolved. It hasn't evolved. The whole situation of detaining these innocent people is is antithetical to what we believe our democracy and our rights that we have as people who are in the United States of America. And I say that specifically. I don't say citizens. I say people who are under the protection of the state of New Jersey. I'm glad that the governor has talked with Homan, and there's going to be visitation allowed for the families starting today, limited, and then on tomorrow starting at 7. But they're going to have to go through extra steps too. They're going to have to be in contact with the facility. They're going to have to be escorted in. This has got to stop. This is un-American. I say it, my heart was broken last night, and I really felt for you because you report what you see. You don't add on color. You tell the truth. And you were not in any way impeding anything last night when they asked you to move. And that sight of 7 or 8 police officers behind you, and then some on the other side with the protesters, the few protesters. Oh my God. What were they trying to quell last night with 100 and some protesters?
I mean, as I said, it reminded me of the days after 9/11 in Manhattan when there would be those police drills and they'd, as if there were a terrorist attack just to practice. Yeah. I mean, that's why I didn't even know New York had that many police. I'm just reading a statement that's come in from leader Hakeem Jeffries, who was talking about his visit to Delaney Hall, in which he says, not a single detainee whom I spoke with during an oversight visit that lasted more than an hour falls into the category of the worst of the worst, which is the expression Donald Trump uses. They were law-abiding members of their community, including several tax-paying small business owners and an 18-year-old dreamer who was ripped away from her family just months from her high school graduation. The situation is unacceptable. Delaney Hall must be shut down immediately. You made an interesting distinction here, which I think has become very important. This is not a conversation about citizens versus non-citizens. This is a conversation about human decency. It is our neighbors. These are the people among whom we live. They are not others.
Yep. And we're allowing this government to treat them as if they're less than human. And so the people of this country have got to stand up and say, no, this is not what we're looking for. You put this on top of everything else that the president has lied about. He hasn't reduced our cost of living. He hasn't increased our access to health care. He's not done anything to protect us. He's put us in a war of his choosing so that he can make some more money. He's the most corrupt president we've ever had, the most corrupt administration we've ever had. And we're acting like we're helpless and can't do anything. Well, yes, we can, because this is a government of, by, and for the people, and we've got to stand up. But we got to stand up peacefully, so that we can exercise our rights, and that we've got to ensure that our press has the capacity to report it. This is not something that happens in the dark. It is not something that happens in closed rooms. This is what's happening in our state, and it needs to stop.
Congresswoman, thank you for the continued oversight. Thank you for being with us this morning. The Democratic Congresswoman Bonnie Watson-Coleman of New Jersey. Coming up, New Jersey Congressman Rob Menendez joins me. He was on site at Delaney Hall alongside Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries this morning. I will ask him what he saw. But first, the Trump administration's planned concert series to celebrate the 250th anniversary of our nation's founding fell apart this weekend as a majority of the musicians backed out, many of them saying they had not been told that this was going to be a partisan event. Naturally, the president's not taking the news very well. He's been rage posting on his social media site that the concert series should be canceled altogether, and we should instead celebrate America's founding with a MAGA rally, quote, instead of having overpriced singers who do nothing but complain, end quote. It's a complicated year to be celebrating this complicated country of ours. After the break, I'm joined by the great Eddie Glaude, whose new book, America, USA, How Race Shadows the Nation's Anniversaries, confronts the unfinished business of the American experiment and reckons with the vicious cycle of American history.